It's time for our Forum Daily's weekly energy update with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. All yours, Dan.
Everybody, it's Dan McTeague, Canadians for Affordable Energy and gas price wizard. This has been another slow week in terms of gas prices. We have, in fact, been able to accurately predict that prices would go up, and to a large extent, they did. Now, in some places in the country, they've actually come down, especially in Eastern Canada. But a lot of that is due, again, to external reasons having nothing to do with supply and demand. Interesting that this week we have reports from the International Energy Agency, OPEC, and even reluctantly BP, which refers to itself now as Beyond Petroleum, although BP is a shadow of its former self, saying, you know what, the demand picture will continue to be very strong in supply for oil, especially in the second half of 2024, which is where we are, will continue to be very robust. And that really means that energy prices will continue, at least on the oil side, to move up. Now, gasoline refineries have done extraordinarily well. There's really no issues or any mishaps or any problems. So that means that the price of gasoline, while it looks stable right now, believe it or not, it's about 10 cents a liter higher than it was this time last year. So putting things in perspective, we may sort of think, oh, this is great, this is wonderful. But, half of that is due to the fact that the Canadian dollar traded this time last year for 132 pennies to buy US dollar. This year, 136 to 137. So that accounts for about a 3 cent of that 10-cent difference between this year and last year. And of course, the carbon tax, which is 4 cents higher on average across Canada. And that's not including the second carbon tax, which now affects places like Quebec and the Atlantic Canada and fully in British Columbia. So when you think about it, prices seem to have been stable in the United States, and they would otherwise be stable in Canada were it not for those two factors: a weak Canadian dollar and, of course, a much higher carbon tax, which continues to move up, now 17.61 cents a liter. For the outlook this week, I sense that we are going to be seeing a much higher price this time next week. Not a lot, but gradually, as oil moves up another $2 or $3 a barrel, it continues to move up, 50 cents to $1 a day. That means in places like Vancouver, which is, wow, I mean, look at Vancouver, they're almost 19 cents cheaper than they were this time last year, mostly a function of the fact that U.S. refineries on the West Coast are doing extraordinarily well. Again, no mishaps, no upsets, no temporary shutdowns or much longer protracted shutdowns. So gasoline will be currently at about $1.80, $1.81, moving up about 3 cents a liter to $1.84 this time next week. Same for Victoria, although prices tend to be sticky there. We're seeing $1.77 to $1.80. That is likely to move up about 2 cents a liter. For the rest of British Columbia, in the 170 range, 170, 166, Prince George, 170, Kelowna, and Kamloops, look for those prices to move up about 2 cents a liter. If you look at Alberta, prices have actually gone up, 155, 154, now heading back down to 151 for Calgary and 2 cents to 3 cents cheaper in Edmonton. Look for this week for those numbers to firm up, probably an additional 2 cents a liter. Saskatchewan never moves. We know that prices on the markets can fluctuate, but they're very happy with $1.55 a liter for on average for Regina and for Saskatoon and for the rest of the province. So we're not seeing much change there. Ditto for Manitoba. $1.42 seems to be the sweet spot. Even though prices may have dropped, they continue to stay in the 142 range. Ontario, we've seen prices move as high as $1.70, move back down to $1.64, 65, 66. Look for those prices to remain the same. Maybe an increase of 1 cent net week over week. Same for Quebec at $1.77, Montreal, Quebec City, and places in between. And the difference there is always about 11 cents a liter more because of higher taxes in that province. As for Atlantic Canada, which saw about a 2 cent increase for gasoline, well, we're looking at a scenario where in Atlantic Canada, we might actually see a break, maybe a penny to a penny and a half next week, as this week's decline in prices will finally impact 7 days later what happens in Atlantic Canada. For now, though, look at stable prices to the end of the month, no signs of hurricanes or any other disruptions. And for that reason, we can pretty much be content that if we're taking to the roads, the price we're paying right now is very similar to what we'd be paying this time next week, with some limitations, with some gas stations shedding their retail margins, 2 or 3 cents a liter. Best thing is always buy your gasoline in the evening. And for that reason, you might actually save a few cents a liter, no matter where you are from coast to coast. That's it for this week, and we'll be back at you next week.
And that was Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, with our weekly energy update.